What happens to trucks that are 100 tons overloaded? Just look at this truck. The driver is seriously overloaded. This has caused his truck to break down on the side of the road. He quickly contacted a mechanic to come and fix it. After inspection, it turned out that the rear axle of the truck was broken due to the overload. The driver was worried that this would affect his delivery. The mechanic reassured him that it's a minor issue. It'll only cost 2,000 rupees and can be fixed before dark. Let's see how the driver handles it. Due to the uneven surface of the axle head, in order to improve the precision of subsequent repairs, it needs to be fixed onto the lathe. To prevent misalignment during fixation leading to cutting errors, the worker also needs to use a homemade sliding needle disc to locate the position. This is to inspect the axial runout. Once the inspection is complete, the master adjusts the lathe tool holder and uses the cutting tool to turn the axle head. Through the rotation of the lathe, the irregular parts of the surface are gradually removed, making the surface regular and smooth. After a few minutes of turning, the surface becomes smooth and even. But the master knows that simply welding is not feasible because the center of the axle head lacks a support point. Therefore, he needs to use a drill bit to create a center hole in the center of the axle head so that a center shaft can be added during subsequent splicing, which not only provides support during splicing, but also ensures the coaxiality during splicing. The depth of this drilling needs to be precise, so the worker needs to be extremely careful and cautious. After completing the drilling for the center pin, the next step is to tap the center shaft into the hole. Such repair measures and designs provide necessary support and stability for the solid shaft. Then, he uses the lathe tool to turn the other end of the center shaft, and then uses a threading tool to turn the surface of the axle head to ensure that the subsequent welding is more secure. Because the rear axle is very heavy, the worker can only rely on a hoist for assistance at this time. With the help of the hoist, the worker successfully fixes it on the lathe. The other end is supported using a retaining bracket. Similarly to the machining process for the axle head, the axle head and the rear axle can be reassembled. This assembly step is also a critical one. He needs to control the depth of the axle head insertion to ensure consistency with the other end. To ensure nothing goes wrong, continuous measurements are needed during pressing. Once everything checks out, welding can proceed. During the welding process, smoke fills the air and sparks fly, but this doesn't affect the master's patient welding. To enhance the overall welding strength, the worker stops after welding each layer to knock off the welding slag with tools before continuing with the welding. This process is repeated until the weld seam is filled. The repaired solid rear axle is now complete. It's truly impressive. What do you think about the skills of Pakistani workers today?